I have too is what are the ramifications for the budget on this? I mean, revenue is likely to be down because tax income is going to be down. Needs are going to be higher. Um, so expenses will have to go up. How do you see this affecting this budget cycle, given that everything's got to balance out in the end?
I think, this is Barbara again, a lot of it's going to depend on how much federal money is actually made available. And that's the big unknown here. You know, the state really is the safety net provider of last resort or first resort, depending on how you view it. And I mean, we've had a 30% increase in unemployment compensation requests in just the last 2 weeks. You know, small businesses are asking for no interest loans or just flat out grants because they can't stay open. We've had requests for grants to even mid-sized businesses so they can delay layoffs. So all of those things combined sort of require dollars going out the door, and they also limit dollars coming in. So there's a considerable reduction in sales tax. There's a considerable reduction in income tax, at least at the state level. Now, interestingly, the local levels are not hit quite as hard because they rely more heavily on the real estate tax. And unless property values somehow take a big dip, the main source of revenue for our localities will probably be secure and not be too much affected by the crises if it doesn't last too long. So, but I mean, local governments in Arlington, for example, half of their real estate dollars do come in from the business buildings, from commercial buildings. So if everybody's teleworking and commercial buildings are struggling and they're not paying the rent, then there will be a hit at the local level rather considerably. So it's a big unknown right now in terms of what the impact is. But our state treasurer, Aubrey Lane, I thought painted a picture of a great deal of caution and uncertainty. The last time we had our, we're all on this sort of call every other day, actually. And that was this message. I think it was just on Friday.
Yeah, I don't remember whether it was Friday or Thursday. Is anyone else having the problem I'm having? It's hard to tell what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
Today?
I think it was Friday because I had it Friday.
The normal rhythms of day the week are been disrupted. I think it's Sunday we're talking today, right? Aren't we?
Yeah.
For me, it's kind of a sunrise and sunset. That's kind of what I'm acknowledging.
Yeah.
Everything else is a blur.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Let me just add, I think Barbara's exactly right. So much of this is going to depend on what the feds do. Remember, the feds can print money. Virginia can't. I know the Secretary Lane is looking really hard at this. One of the things when we left Richmond we were proud of, maybe we'll talk about the budget, maybe this will be some of the questions you've got, Mark. One of the things we're proud of is that we continue to sock away a lot of money for our reserves and our rainy day fund. So certainly your viewers, our viewers today should be confident. Virginia has enough money to run its government right now and its programs. And remember, tax receipts, at least in terms of current receipts, are based on last year's economy, not this year's economy. But that, of course, gives us challenges for what next year's second half of the biennium might look like.
Yeah.
But so much of it's going to depend on, as Barbara said, how whether it's 1 trillion or 2 trillion or whatever it ends up being pumped into the system, because that ends up becoming money that the state can use to whether it's help localities or whatever. Let me add one other thing, just with respect to the functioning of government. One of the things that's been worrying localities has been how can they continue to function under FOIA and transparency laws. How can they literally go about making their decisions? And the Attorney General just 36 hours ago or something responded to a letter I asked him to, a letter I'd sent him now a week or so ago, giving localities, I think, a fair share of relief on their ability to literally have their boards meet and make decisions during this crisis, so that the wheels of government can keep turning. So the governor, the attorney general, everyone's looking for ways to make sure, as nearly as possible, we can continue to function as we normally would, despite the crisis.
Can I just jump in? Rick, Mark Herring issued an opinion. I think I got it Saturday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allowing for electronic meetings, at least under certain conditions. So I think we're all struggling with how we conduct business now and still meet our very important laws on sunshine and transparency.
Right.
Yeah, and I would just add, Mark, and the only concern that I have is we passed a really good budget, which I hope we can get into some of the specifics about it. But when we've been in these situations before, when we've had to adjust our budget situation, I agree it's going to depend on what the feds put in. But we're all just speculating on what the projections are going to be.
Yeah.
And if the projections are going to be dire, then we will have to make some adjustments to our budget. And in years past, what we've done is we've looked at salary increases for government employees and teachers. We put a lot of new money into K through 12 for school counselors and per pupil costs. A lot of money has been put into mental health and people with disabilities. So you look at those types of categories and you adjust it based on what the projections are likely to be. But there's a lot of good things that we put into this budget. To Delegate Sullivan's point, we have historic levels of reserves that we can tap into. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that if the adjustments based on what the feds are bringing in, and don't forget, to Senator Favola's point about shifting some costs to the localities, that's something the state has not been shy of doing in instances like this. Hopefully with all those types of streams that we can pull to, you'll see very little adjustment for the current budget. At least I'm hopeful of that, because I think we all hope and pray that this is a temporary blip, that we can get back on once we get through this crisis, that things will start moving towards where we currently are in hopefully short order. But it could take several months. It could take a year or so. But hopefully we've got all those fundamentals in place that we can quickly move back.
Well,
good answers, colleagues.
Sorry?
I was just saying good answers, colleagues.
Yes, no,